For more than 2 decades, we've been educating our listeners about financial topics that are most important to you. Do you have enough money to retire? How will you keep from running out of money? What's your plan for managing market risk? What about taxes, inflation, and health care? Each week, we talk with an advisor at Lucia Capital Group about these issues and more. This is Managing Your Financial Future. We are managing your financial future. Welcome back to the podcast. Johnny Dean, your podcast host. Normally, I'm here with Professor Rick Plum, and he's been here for doing this for many, many years. But I got another person I'm bringing in today. I yanked in Rashard Cook, who is a VP and wealth manager at Lucia Capital Group. Rashard, I can't believe that I've been doing this podcast, for 4 years, and this is the first time you've ever been on. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Nice to have you on.
Thank you. We give Rick a break today.
We did give Rick a break today. You know, not that he needs it, but I've been trying for the last probably year and to get other advisors in and talk about things that maybe Rick and I haven't talked about before, or at least get another perspective. And that's kind of what we're going to do today with you. I do appreciate you taking the time because I know you're a busy guy and it's very tough sometimes to get people in to talk about this. Rashard, you've been in the financial planning business for a long time now.
A long time, going on 13 years now. I think
wow,
it is.
13 years. Now you have an interesting history, which I think can relate a little bit to what it is that you do now. But you were an NFL football player for a while.
So I did. So I played in NFL for 5 years.
Yes, you even went to a fairly big school. I was going to make a joke about USC because me being the UCLA guy. It's
kind of hard to joke about USC.
But you can't because they are all about football. And you played there for how long were you at USC?
4 years.
You went the full 4 years.
From 95 to 99, I went there 4 years, got my degree, graduated, and was drafted into the NFL. So started off with the Chicago Bears and ended up in Philadelphia for 5 years.
Wow. And you were safety. Where were you?
I played defensive back.
Safety. Defensive back.
Anything in the defensive secondary, I played that.
All
Corner,
right.
Safety, nickel, strong safety, free safety.
Yeah.
Anywhere I can get on the field.
I bring it up because, there aren't a lot of people who can actually say they did what you did. I mean, to get to where you did and to play for 5 years in the NFL, that's quite an accomplishment. Now, you, having had that background, I'm sure you've seen come across people who had, no money to begin with, and all of a sudden, here they are, they're making tons of money, they're in their early 20s, and their career may not have lasted all that long, but they face a reality that all these millions of dollars that some of these athletes are making, they're going to have to make this last or find something else to do.
Correct. So yeah, that's what got me into financial services. I mean, I'm sitting there, I'm thinking I'm in my mid to late 20s and career is over.
Yeah.
But I'm glad what I was able to do is save a lot early on.
Yeah. Well, you were smart.
I was concerned about that. I was reading in the papers. I was reading in magazines. It was online. Also in the locker room, I'm hearing about guys who dealt with financial advisors, and all of a sudden they invested in some speculative investment, and now all the money is gone.
Yeah, and they get injured, or something happens, and their careers don't last all that long. Not everybody goes 20 some odd years like Tom Brady.
Yeah, the average career is 3.5 years.
That's
if you actually make it through year one, then you get to 3.5. But Tom Brady and some of those guys, the kickers, the punters, the quarterbacks, their kind of life expectancy in the NFL is a little bit longer than the guys who run around and hit people for a living.
That's because they're being protected, and you're doing the protecting, or you're doing the attacking. Yes.
That is correct.
Yes, there are the protected positions. But so how this relates to what we're going to talk about today is not just players, but you see it a lot in with athletes, but just the average person who has to save. They don't make everything in their 20s, and then they have to make it last 40 years. But the average person who may have saved for 40 years, and they've got a 30-year retirement potentially ahead of them, right?
Right. It's almost reversed. So for a young guy like myself going into the NFL, making a decent amount of money, I made a lot of money early, but I'm also in the accumulation stage.
Of course.
So what you see is a lot of times with other people that are employed in regular occupations is it's kind of a ramp up. They start off lower on the totem pole, start making a little bit more. They have kids, they get married, buy a house, things like that. And then they start having a little bit more extra money. So they start to save a little bit more on the back end, where mine was the reverse, where I needed to save a lot early because I had no idea when the career was going to be over. So in most occupations, I'm a financial advisor. There's not much risk in being a financial advisor as far as, being injured and this income stopping like right away, like it is in football. So I can kind of safely predict that I should make X amount for the next 10, 15, 20 years, and I should start putting X amount away. So that's the difference as far as the two careers, and starting off, making some really good money, and then it goes down, and then you got to figure out what the next career move is, versus someone right now who's in their 20s and 30s and practicing law or medicine or whatever it is, and they know that, all right, if I keep doing this for the next 10, 15 years, I'll probably make some more money, pay off some debt, and eventually retire.
Well, and the theme with all of this, whether you're an athlete or not, is that you've got a certain amount of money and it's got to last for a certain amount of time.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
I mean, if you want to try to retire at 50, go ahead, but you better have enough money to make it, for the next potentially 30 to 40 years.
That is correct.
And so there's a thing that Michael Finke, PhD, that he had written that you had sent me, and I've seen this in different forms before, the new retirement reality. And what this talks about, there are a couple of things that it talks about. The first one was this, and this is what you brought to my attention. The most important reason why I'd hire a financial advisor, and this is from a year or so ago. And the number one reason, Rashard, was what?
It's understanding how much can I safely spend in retirement.
Yeah. How much can I safely spend? In other words, how do I not run out of money?
Right.
Right? I mean, you just thinking, why would I hire an advisor? I think oftentimes people's first reaction would be, well, I got to grow my money, right?
Correct.
I mean, aren't they going to, give me 10, 15, 20% per year? But the prudent person is going to hire one to say, look, I understand that this may not last.
Right.
I could run out. What do I do?
Right. So you look at the top 2 of the 3 answers, percentage-wise, of the 1,200 people that they actually interviewed, and it was understanding how much I can safely spend in retirement, and then creating a saving and investment plan for retirement. Had nothing to do with, number 2 was investment performance, so that's up there, but everything else that you think of why you hire a financial planner is, it's tough as a financial planner, is a lot of times we get people after they already established their habits. Right? They're either good or bad. They're either spending too much money or they're already saving enough. Yeah. And then we go and say, you're doing a great job saving. Now save a little bit more, and then you should be able to retire at age 55, 60, whatever that number is. The other end is you've been doing a great job of making a lot of money, but you haven't saved enough. Yeah. And now there's like this habit that we have to try to twist and turn and get them to start saving more, but their whole life, they've been just big spenders and buy whatever they want. They never lived on a budget. And then now, because retirement is in that 10 to 15 year window or even closer, now we're trying to change their thought process of how they're managing their money, which is more difficult.
Well, their expenses would match their income, in other words. And it worked up until the time that their income is no longer guaranteed. I mean, if you look at guaranteed income like a job, So it's about creating, in some ways, it's about creating guaranteed income in retirement, but it's also about telling people how much they can safely spend in retirement. Now, you had also, this very well, Bill Bengen, or Bengen, I don't know how you pronounce his name, but anyway, it's now been almost 30 years.
Oh, the 4% rule.
The 4% rule. Yeah. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Explain what that is for people who don't know.
Yeah, the 4% rule or guideline we call it. It's not a rule. It's not a set rule in stone, but more so a guideline of taking your investable assets. Let's use $1 million, for example, and you should safely be able to spend 4%. 4% of $1 million is $40,000 a year. They're saying you should not run out of money. You should not run out of money.
Statistically, you should have a 90 whatever percent.
I think it's
chance.
like a 94% chance of not running out of money if all the things
over 30
happen
years,
over a 30-year period. But so many things have changed since then, which we'll probably get into a little bit.
Well, they have. I've seen it. When interest rates, now they're higher now, but when they were lower, we heard, they changed it to something like 2.1% or 2.2%. because you're not guaranteed. You cannot get CDs back then. You couldn't get CDs for 5% like you used to be able to do. And when this was developed in the early 90s, I mean, interest rates were obviously higher. I think they were even higher than they are now. So it made more sense. But so there were flaws with that particular model. But you still use it, don't you, in some regard?
I think so. It's a simple way of approaching it, of a guideline. I wouldn't put it as a rule. I put it as a guideline, but you also have to wrap it with a plan. You can't just say, hey, go save $1 million, and then you'll spend 4%. You will not run out of money. There still has to be some rules attached to it. Still have to be an investment strategy attached to it. Still has to be an ongoing conversation and rework in the investments over a period of time. It's not a set it and forget it type of deal. I wish it was. It would be so much easier. But if it was that easy, people wouldn't need to hire me. They wouldn't listen to the podcast. They wouldn't need to hire Rick Plum and hire us because it's that easy.
Yeah,
so.
and you know that it's not easy because everybody's situation is different. Do you find that it takes one set of skills to build a portfolio, to get to a certain level, but it takes a different set of skills once you've reached that number to reverse the process and start taking an income from what you've built?
Yeah, because if you're saving, it's easy to save. You just take it. You say, I'm getting as far as my income, whatever it is, employment income or rental income, whatever it is that's coming in, you just put it off to the side. That's very easy. You just stack it up. You keep stacking. You have an option. You can put it in cash. You can put it in CDs. You can put it in investments. But if you just save it, that's very easy. What I've found is people struggle when it's time to take it out.
Yes.
Where do I take it from? How much can I take? When do I start taking it? Is it okay now? And, well, this is down. Should I take it from here? And it's a conversation I think should be had before you start taking it out. But what ends up happening is a lot of times people wait too late to bring a financial advisor kind of into the picture. And they're kind of set in their ways. They read a book somewhere, or their father did it this way, or their mother did it another way. And, and before they passed away, they said, never sell that stock that I gave you. And then so now you're stuck holding a big piece of what is kind of your nest egg, and someone told you don't spend it or don't sell it. And then now you're only left with a small piece. And how do you figure that out of going from income every single month, monthly income with employment, to now having this nest egg, and it needs to start sending income into your bank account on a monthly basis.
Oh, it is. It's to me, it's almost like you're in the desert, and now you've got a certain amount of water that you got to make last for, you don't know how long. It could be 2 years. It could be 32 years, right? So, what do I do? I mean, do I just take little sips? Do I, divide how much I have by, in a day and hope I make it?
Right.
So the challenge that you have as a financial advisor, and that you've seen, is to develop some kind of strategy.
Correct.
Right? For people who don't want to sit and worry the older they get. Like, I'm watching my portfolio, my nest egg. I mean, I retired. I had $1 million, and it seemed like a lot, but I mean, it's down half.
Right.
Right. So what do you do? I mean, obviously, we talk about buckets and things like this, but what do you do? How do you approach somebody who's concerned, who's came to you based on what this particular Michael Finke report said, when they say, I just want to know how much can I safely spend? Right. How do you approach this for people
That's a good question. So even if you go in that article a little bit more from this one here, is talks about you're at a birthday party, right? I'm a parent. I have kids. We have birthday parties.
Right.
And every kid wants a slice of cake, right? So if there's 40 kids at a party, you have a slice of cake, and the first slice you cut is really big, you can start seeing those kids' eyes over there saying, it's not going to be enough left for me. So I guess to take that as using that analogy is we need to make sure we're only cutting the right size slice for every single year of retirement. So if we cut a slice that's too big, they start looking up in years 25, 26 and saying, we're going to run out of money. Or, so that's an issue. So the job is to create a game plan that says every single piece is accounted for, and everybody's going to get a slice. If I live 35 years, there's still going to be a slice left. I live 40 years, there's still going to be a slice of cake left for me to enjoy. That's kind of the analogy of how we use it, is we try to find out what can you safely spend in retirement without running out of money.
Yeah, and on the cake analogy is good because, well, first of all, there's a finite amount of cake,
right?
Which somebody might say, well, if I live 50 years, I can barely live off of anything. Now, I think this is where you might get into things like here was another thing that we saw in that same report: percentage of retirees with no pension income,
right?
And I might put pension income as something that is like guaranteed income,
correct?
Right? Like
Correct.
income you cannot outlive.
Right.
The cake that every slice you take, it just replaces itself.
Right, exactly.
Right?
That never-ending slice of cake.
Yeah. So where do you put things like pensionized income? Where do you put guaranteed income? How does that figure into this equation?
Well, it's big because that's something that I don't have to account for.
Yeah.
I'm not controlling Social Security. I don't control the pension. But what's happening right now, it's kind of reversed of where it was before. If you go back to the 1900s, right? I'm making myself sound, like the kids say. In the old days, what ended up happening is you would work for Ford Motors for 25, 30, 40 years, and you'll retire with a pension. That pension would probably cover 100% of your needs going forward. And
way back.
So now it's reversed to where 81, I think the number is 81% of the people aged 60 through 69.
It is 81%.
81% of people ages 60 through 69 have no pension, no guaranteed income.
Yeah.
That's scary.
It is scary. Other than perhaps Social Security.
Correct.
Now, Social Security is, for many people, maybe not. Well, no, I might say for many people, the foundation.
Correct.
And the more guaranteed type of income you have, the less pressure it puts on your portfolio. Is
correct.
That right?
So if someone comes in with $1 million and they only need, $25,000 a year off of it, they just live very conservative lifestyle. The kids are all very successful. They just have to cover some of the basic expenses. That's much less pressure on the portfolio. But if someone comes in, has that same $1 million, and they need $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year from the portfolio to sustain until they get Social Security, then that puts a little bit more pressure on it. But we also know that pressure is going to be released when Social Security starts to come in, either at 67 or if they want to wait till 70. So we have conversations with clients all the time. They say, okay, you're going to take a little bit more out right now, which is fine because we know Social Security is going to come in. Now, when Social Security comes in for a high wage earner and they're getting around, $4,000 a month, whatever that number is, now we don't need to take that from the portfolio. We can take it from Social Security, which is a guaranteed source.
Right, which is where the 4% rule really kind of breaks down.
Correct.
Right? Because you could have somebody, as you just said, maybe they got $1 million. They want to retire. They're done. It's 64. They're going to wait till age 70 to take their Social Security. They got $1 million just to make it easy, and $40,000 a year just isn't going to cut it.
Correct.
Right? So they might think at age 64, well, I can't retire. But you say, well, wait a minute. You could actually break that rule, right?
Correct.
You could take maybe 6, 7, 8% because Social Security is coming at age 70, right? Or maybe you're 62 and you have a pension that's going to kick in at 65 or something,
Correct.
Right? So you can take more than that. And that's where these rules really kind of break down, right?
Correct. And that's why we consider them guidelines.
Yeah.
Because they're not hard rules. We can't say that's a hard rule. You can't take more than 4% or the portfolio will blow up. You can. It's just strategically, how do we do it? You sit down with a financial advisor, develop a game plan, lay every single thing out. We have a rental property over here that right now, they're not paying us market rent. We're going to go up on that. That's part of your income. We're paying for little Johnny to go to school, right? That should go away in a few years. Our mortgage should be paid off in year 3 in retirement. That's less income you're going to take from the portfolio. And then also, I had a small pension. I get this all the time. Hey, Rashard, I have a small pension. It's like $500 a month, or it's, $2,000 a month, but it doesn't start till 62 or 65.
Yeah.
And then also, the other one that's always there is that Social Security for not just now, if both of them are employed, then both of them have a decent Social Security benefit. That's always great, but that's not always the case. But there's ways that we sit and we look and we strategize to say, well, when you get $4,000 a month, it looks like husband or wife is going to get X amount as well based off of your employment history. So we take all that in consideration to say, yes, safely right now, we're taking a little bit extra. And I'll do the calculations. We're taking out around 8 or 9% right now.
Yeah.
The goal is to be around 3 to 4% over a 30-year period. We have a long time to adjust to get down to our average. So in those situations, I'm not concerned. But if you told me, and you told me I need this money, I need this, and it needs to continuously go up, and you're hovering around 10%, you're going to stay there. Yes, there's concern at that point.
Yeah, concern meaning that, in about 12, 13 years, give or take, you could be out of money.
Correct.
And I mean, you may not. You may have a wonderful 15-year run of the stock market,
correct.
But that's luck.
That's correct.
And you don't want to have to. You don't have to depend on that.
That is
what
correct.
about taxes? Do you ever see taxes playing a role? Tax management? I know it does.
It does.
Is it a big role that you see among people that you've dealt with?
Yeah, it's a prime example. So I had a client that gave me a call a couple weeks ago, and he wanted to meet with his son, and we were talking about his strategy and how taxes play into it. And as we're talking through it, we're walking our way through it, it's funny because people don't realize when they're working and they're saving, they're actually living off much less than what they think because they're putting so much more away, right? So if I'm maxing out my 401k, I'm putting around $25,000 a year in my 401k. I make $100,000 a year. I put away $25,000 in a 401k. Now I'm really down to $75,000. You start looking if you have, if you're in a state that has state income tax.
Yep,
they're taking a little bit more out there, and then all the other things that you're paying for at that point that you're not going to pay for in retirement. And so we're sitting there, we're talking, and he's going to be pretty much in a lower tax bracket because he's not going to have much income that's going to be taxable. He's going to have, regular, ordinary income. He's going to take money from the IRA. He has a 401k. He's going to roll that over. He'll have a small pension. And then eventually we'll have Social Security. So we talked about that. Social Security is going to be taxed. It's part of it. But we're looking at what he's going to net after taxes, and that covers every single thing that he's needs today.
Sure.
So he's at a point where he says, I can retire today, tomorrow, 2 years from now, whatever it is. His situation will continuously just improve as long as he works.
So how do what we've talked about for years, of course, is the bucket strategy. How do you see that playing with regard to maybe not necessarily the 4% rule, but do you see the bucket strategy as being much more effective in many cases than somebody who just wants to take a systematic withdrawal? I'll take 4%. I got $1 million. It's half stock, half bond. I'm just going to trim 4% off the top and rebalance.
Yeah, that's a tough one because, first of all, when you go back to the 4% rule, and that 4% rule pertains to that day that you decide to retire.
Yes.
If you came in, you said, hey, Rashard, here's my portfolio, here's my $1 million, and today you hand it to me, we're stuck. We have to take a picture right there where we are today, and that $1 million, and we have to start taking $40,000 a year out. I don't know what's going to happen next year, right? I don't know what's going to happen. So if I have, if you have a decrease in the stock market of like 10%, right, immediately following your retirement that next year, then also now that pulls down the likelihood of you of not running out of money. So it goes down from like 96%, goes down about 10-20%.
Oh, it can be devastating. We talked about that, especially as you said early in retirement.
Right.
If I can take $40,000 out of a $1 million portfolio, but if that $1 million portfolio is now $900,000, $800,000, whatever it happens to be, and now I'm taking much more than 4% out because I need X number of dollars, that's a big problem.
That is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was even inside of this article. That's why I like this article. It kind of relates to a lot of what we do on an everyday basis, but kind of put it in simple terms for people to understand. It talked about if you were to retire today, and then I give you a deck of cards, -20 to positive 20 for the next year, and I mix them up really good, I shuffle the cards really good, and I hand you the deck of cards, and you flip it over, and that's your rate of return for the next year.
So each card has a 0 or a +5
Correct.
or -14.
Correct.
And so I'm going to pick one out.
You pick one card, you turn it over,
and that's your rate of return.
That's your rate of return for the next year.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
People will not feel too comfortable with that. Yeah, they might feel great if they flip over a +20.
Yeah.
Great, stock market's up 20%. I had $1 million, up to $1.2 million now, right? And they pulled 40,000 out, whatever it is. They still have over $1 million. But the person who flips over the -20 now all of a sudden is concerned.
Yes.
So that's where the strategy comes into play is, okay, no need to be concerned. We have to adjust. That's why we pull income from over here where we're not getting this big variance as far as the -20 and +20. We're taking income from pretty much safe places, cash equivalents, CDs, things like that are very, very lower risk. And also we're not expecting tremendous returns either. So we don't want to pull from there. Exactly.
Yeah, you're letting time do what it has to do, right? You
Correct.
have to buy time.
Correct.
Now people have said, well, wait a minute. So if I keep using $1 million because it's easy math.
It's
okay?
super easy, yeah.
But if I have $1 million, you're telling me you're gonna take something like 300,000 and just chop it off and have me earn nothing on that, and then you're gonna take another 300, maybe 350, something like
somewhere
that,
in there, yeah,
and put it in something that's not just kind of in the middle,
right?
And you're only gonna let like 300 some odd thousand grow. I mean, how am I supposed to grow my portfolio? People don't say that though, do they? Or do they?
They do, but once they sit and they figure it out and they understand that we have a part of the portfolio that is designed to grow. Mm-hmm. It's designed to grow, but there's also a part of the portfolio designed for income.
Yes.
Right? Those are two different things. Growth is growth. I just want to hit home runs. I want to do really well. I want the stock market to go and it rides the wave. It goes up and down over the 10, 15, 20 years. But if I told you that your income is covered for the next 10, 15 years, then it doesn't matter what happens to the stock market in year 2 or in year 3.
And it's probably going to be bad several times during that 15-year period.
Right. That's what I said. You go back. What card did you pick? What card did you flip over? And if you flip over the bad card, there's a strategy already in place because the strategy already took in consideration that there's a chance that John Dean, I know you have good luck. You usually win all the raffles and the prizes that you flip over that wrong card of -20. I know in my experience, I just never win the raffles. I never win all those prizes and stuff. That, when I decide that I'm calling it quits, I'm going to retire, that next year we're going to have -20, maybe -25, -30.
Plan on it.
But I'm planning on that and I'm banking on that to happen. If it doesn't, I'm in a much better situation. But if it does, it's kind of like, I expect it to be here.
Yeah, I'm no worse off.
Right.
It gives you it's just a feeling of control, right? And
Correct.
Isn't that kind of what most people want? Ultimately, they want to control. They don't want something that's out of their control dictating how much money they can spend for that year.
Correct.
I mean, right?
In essence, we're counselors. The emotions, controlling the emotions, right? People see what's going on as far as the news. Hey, the market's up, the market's down. But in essence, it hasn't really impacted their portfolio as far as where we're working with some of our clients is their income. Their sole focus is, will I continue to receive my income? And the answer is yes.
Yeah.
And then they go, okay, well, the market was down. The market's been down for a week. They said that we're going to war. They said that, inflate. You're continuing to receive your income. And that's all they really care about at this point. Yeah, you do want to see that number continue to increase.
That would be nice.
It's nice, but you're not going back to work. We're not asking our clients, hey, go back to work, go get us some more money because, the stock market's down. We're saying keep doing what you're doing. Let's control the spending where we can. And the plan is working according to what we set out when we initially met.
It's, as I said, it's a powerful thing. Before we wrap up, I'm sure I didn't cover everything that you wanted to cover. Is there anything that I may have missed as far as the 4% rule goes, or
no? I think just some of the stuff of just kind of having an idea of what is actually happening in our country. People are living longer.
Yeah,
I know. It seems like I'm on Facebook. You're on Instagram, and friends and families, and it seems like people are passing away a little younger. But historically, that number keeps rising.
Yeah,
and it's one of the things that it covered inside this article too is males are living longer. Remember, before it would be females would outlive the males. Now males are living longer on average. So it increased 6 years as opposed to where females only increased at 3 years. So they were already living longer. We get it. We understand that. But
right.
That's something that's changing. And then also what's changing was wealthier people are living longer.
I saw that. Yeah.
I thought that was pretty interesting. So it's kind of a catch-22. You have some money,
but
you're doing well. Now you have to make it, and you're going to make it, and you're probably going to live longer than you anticipated. I feel like for me, it's easier to plan on living longer than it is for shorter. So that's what I think people need to focus on is, and that goes back to kind of that, the analogy we were talking about earlier, kind of off the air, where if you go to those old school banks and you put all your savings in that little chute.
Oh, the little thing that you on the drive-through.
Yeah,
right?
The drive-through. You go. I remember I was small. I was younger. I would drive. I'd be in the back seat of the car. And my parents would put their withdrawal slip in there or a deposit slip, and they shoot the money up to the chute, and then
it winds up the person behind the glass. Yes.
Yeah, it goes to the person behind the glass, and it shoots that little canister back out, and you take the money out, and there's money in it. So it goes back to, what if we did that with retirement?
Yeah.
I take everything right now. I'm shooting it up there. I'm shooting money every single month. And then 10, 15, 20 years from now, I go back to that same bank and I pull the money out and it's not enough.
What do you do?
That's the issue. And that's what we're trying to avoid is having a game plan, talking to someone who does this on an everyday basis and understands a strategy that can actually help you in retirement. So we're trying to avoid that what if of you get there and it's like, babe, we only have like $100,000 saved. I thought we saved more. I thought you put some in, so you just don't want to be in that situation. So I think that's why looking at articles like this, reading these type of articles, of course, I understand it because I'm into financial services, but I love these articles because it makes it very simple. We're living longer. The 4% rule is not a rule. It's a guideline. And every situation is different. So you need to find someone that understands your situation and can help you.
Yes, and it starts with having a strategy.
Correct.
I mean, it's a game plan. You know as well as anybody else. You don't go into a football game. I mean, you've got your game plan set, right?
Yes.
If this happens, we're going to do this.
Correct.
Right? So you, as well as anybody, know that that's exactly how that works.
That is correct. Yeah, we tell people they see Sundays. They don't see the practice on Monday, the blood, sweat, tears on Wednesday.
Right.
The messed up plays on Thursday. Coaches yelling at you on Friday. You see Sunday when everything looks like, man, they have it all together. But that's because it's the game plan. We've practiced the game plan. We rehearsed it. We went over it. We got chewed out. We got back up, and we finished, and we put together a pretty good show.
You've done a great job. Do you miss the NFL or no?
I miss the money. I don't miss the injuries. I miss the camaraderie. I miss the locker room.
Yeah.
I miss a lot of those guys you get to meet from all across the country. Some of the guys you played against, guys you played with, guys that you actually saw on TV before you got there.
And now you're with them.
And
right?
now you're with them. So I missed a lot of those things about it, definitely. But as far as the physical standpoint, the body can only take so much.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm glad I got out there with my body pretty much intact.
You don't have any. You don't have any ill effects.
Some lingering things. There's some lingering things out there, but it's enough. It's not enough to knock me down and keep me down right now. So I'm good.
Good for you, Rashard Cook. I thank you so much for being on the show. I got to have you back on again. Rashard Cook, Wealth Manager, VP here at Lucia Capital Group. If you want to get in touch with him or Professor Plum or any of the Lucia Capital Group advisors, 800-644-1150. The number at Lucia Capital Group, 800-644-1150. As you can tell, Rashard, Professor Plum, you guys are all working together. You're all on the same page.
Yep.
Just like a team. Again, everybody, they have the game plan. They're all working out exactly the same way. So you need to get in touch with one of them. Go to LuciaCap.com if you want to learn more about this, want to learn more about Rashard, or you just want some information. LuciaCap, LuciaCap.com. ssa.gov. My thanks to Rashard Cook, and for him and for all the rest of the gang, I'm Johnny Dean, your podcast host. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you again next week. The information provided should not be considered specific tax, legal, or investment advice and is not specific to any individual's personal circumstances. Each taxpayer should seek independent advice from a tax professional based on his or her individual circumstances. Different types of investments and/or investment strategies involve varying levels of risk, and there can be no assurance that any specific investment or investment strategy will be profitable for a client's or prospective client's portfolio. Thus, investments may result in a loss of principal. Accordingly, no client or prospective client should assume that the information presented serves as the receipt of or a substitute for personalized advice from Lucia Capital Group or from any other investment professional. You should always seek counsel of the appropriate advisor prior to making any investment decision. All investments are subject to risk, including the loss of principal. This material is gathered from sources believed to be reliable. However, its accuracy cannot be guaranteed. This material should not be considered a solicitation of an offer to sell or buy any specific security or offering. Investors should consult a financial professional to determine whether risks associated with an investment in the shares are compatible with their investment objectives. Examples cited are hypothetical, are for illustrative purposes only, are not guaranteed, and subject to potential federal and state law amendments. There is no guarantee that you will achieve the results discussed or illustrated. CDs are FDIC insured up to $250,000 per depositor per insured bank for each account ownership category. The information provided is based on current laws, which are subject to change at any time. Lucia Capital Group is not affiliated with or endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any government agency. Social Security rules can be complex. For more information about Social Security benefits, visit the SSA website at ssa.gov or call 800-772-1213 to speak with an SSA representative. IRA withdrawals will be taxed at ordinary income rates. Withdrawals prior to age 59.5 may also be subject to a 10% penalty tax. Rick Plum and Rashard Cook are registered representatives with and securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, and member FINRA SIPC. The investment professionals are affiliated with LPL Financial and are conducting business using the name Lucia Capital Group, a separate entity from LPL Financial.